Wait, I didn't believe this either until I saw it myself. I've got 20 wheat pennies here, and every single one could be worth a silent fortune. These are the exact coins people ignore, spend, and lose every day without thinking. Hidden treasure. Slipping through hands. Do not spend these coins. Check your pocket now, your drawers, your old jars, because one tiny detail on these pennies could turn into life-changing money. First up, you've probably seen this coin before, and that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. The 1910 wheat penny without a mint mark doesn't scream value. It doesn't shine. It doesn't look special. In fact, most people would toss it aside without a second thought. Or worse, spend it like it's nothing. But what most people miss, what almost nobody realizes, is that this quiet, worn-looking coin could be hiding a silent fortune worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is not fiction. And if you skip this detail, you could lose everything. Now think about the year 1910. America was in a powerful transition. Industrial growth was exploding, cities were expanding, and the demand for coinage was under serious pressure. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, where this coin was struck, which is why it has no mint mark, was working at full speed to keep up. Machines were pushed hard. Dies were wearing down faster than expected. And in that pressure, something incredible happened. Coins like this were produced under stress, and only a tiny fraction survived in original condition. When you hold a 1910 wheat penny, you're holding a piece of that moment. On the front, you'll see Abraham Lincoln's portrait, strong, calm, but often softly worn down from circulation. Above him, the word Liberty, and the date 1910 stamped into the metal. On the back, those iconic wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. Simple, clean. But don't let that simplicity fool you, because collectors don't see a design. They see history frozen in copper. And that copper matters more than you think. This coin is made primarily of 95% copper with a small mix of tin and zinc. That composition gives it a very specific feel in your hand, about 3.11 grams in weight, roughly 19 millimeters in diameter, and a thin but solid thickness that serious collectors instantly recognize. It's not just a coin. It's a physical signature of an era. And over time, that copper develops toning, deep browns, dark reds, sometimes almost black surfaces. That dirty look? That's not damage. That's value. This is where most people make the biggest mistake. They try to clean it. Listen carefully. Never clean this coin. Not with water, not with chemicals, not with anything. The moment you touch that original surface, you destroy the very thing collectors are willing to pay for. That antique toning, that aged darkness, those tiny imperfections, they are proof this coin survived over a century untouched. And that's what makes it rare. Now here's what makes this specific coin even more intense. The missing mint mark. Because it was struck in Philadelphia, there's no letter under the date. And while that might sound normal, collectors obsess over these details. They study spacing, sharpness, strike quality. Even the smallest variation, slightly thicker lettering, deeper impressions can send value skyrocketing. This is the level of obsession you're dealing with. And survival? That's the real story. Most 1910 pennies were used, abused, and eventually lost or destroyed. Wars came. Economies changed. People didn't think twice about pennies back then. But a few, just a few, somehow made it through untouched, sitting quietly in collections, drawers, or forgotten boxes. And those are the coins collectors are hunting today. At auctions, something strange happens with coins like this. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's quiet, intense, almost secretive. Bidders don't shout. They wait. They watch. And then, suddenly, the price jumps. Fast, aggressive, competitive, because they know what they're looking at. They're not buying a penny. They're buying a piece of hidden wealth. And here's the part that should stop you cold. This exact coin, a 1910 wheat penny with no mint mark in old antique fine condition, has reached auction values up to $450,000. That's not a rare error version. That's not some one-of-a-kind mistake. That's a standard coin that people are still spending every single day. So right now, you need to check. Look at the date. Look for that missing mint mark. Feel the weight. Study the surface. And whatever you do, do not spend this coin, because the difference between 1 cent and a life-changing opportunity is knowledge. And this is just the beginning, because the next coin makes this one look common. And what collectors are doing to get it is even more shocking. Next up, most people don't even notice when this coin slips through their fingers. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. The 1928 wheat penny with no mint mark looks ordinary, just another old cent lost in a pile of change. But something about this year, something most people completely ignore, turns this quiet coin into a hidden piece of serious money. If you've ever brushed off an old penny without checking it closely, this is the moment that should make you stop, go back, and look again. Because this detail changes everything. Now here's where things get intense. The year 1928 wasn't just another year in American history. It was right before everything started to crack. The economy was under pressure. The roaring 20s were reaching their peak. And behind the scenes, instability was building. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, again, no mint mark, was pushing production to keep coins flowing through a rapidly expanding economy. Machines ran harder, dies wore faster, and quality control wasn't always perfect. That pressure created coins with subtle differences, and collectors today are obsessed with finding them. When you look at the front of this 1928 wheat penny, you'll see Abraham Lincoln facing right, calm but slightly softened if the coin has circulated. Above him, "In God We Trust" stretches across the top. To the left, "Liberty." And to the right, the date 1928. It seems simple, almost too plain, but collectors don't see simplicity. They see strike sharpness, letter spacing, and how deeply those details were pressed into the metal under intense minting pressure. Flip it over, and you'll find the iconic wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum sitting above. But here's what most people miss: the tiny details. The edges of the wheat stalks, the spacing between the letters, the depth of the central text. These are the things that separate a common coin from a silent fortune. This is not something you notice casually. You have to look closely, and most people never do. The coin itself carries a physical presence that collectors instantly recognize. Made from 95% copper with small amounts of tin and zinc, it has that warm, aged tone that only time can create. It weighs about 3.11 grams, measures around 19 millimeters in diameter, and has a thin, consistent thickness that feels almost delicate, but it's survived nearly a century. That's not luck. That's rarity building over time. And then there's the surface. This is where people make irreversible mistakes. That dark brown color, those uneven patches, even the slight dirt embedded into the design. This is exactly what you want. That's original toning. That's proof this coin hasn't been tampered with. The moment someone tries to clean it, even gently, the value can collapse instantly. Never clean this coin. Not ever. That old look is what collectors are paying for. Now let's talk about survival. Because this is where things get serious. Most 1928 pennies were heavily circulated. They passed through thousands of hands, used during a time when people relied on every cent. Then came the Great Depression just a year later, and coins like this were pushed even harder into daily use. That means finding one today in very fine condition, with clear details still visible, is incredibly rare. You're not just holding a coin. You're holding something that managed to escape history. Collectors don't just want this coin. They chase it, quietly, patiently. They study listings, watch auctions, and wait for the right example to appear. And when it does, things escalate fast. The bidding doesn't always start loud, but it doesn't stay calm for long. Because everyone in that room understands one thing. Supply is shrinking, and demand is only getting stronger. Coins like this are being locked away in collections. Not spent, not sold, just held. And here's the part that should make you pause. This exact coin, a 1928 wheat penny with no mint mark in very fine condition, has reached auction levels around $390,000. That's not hype. That's not speculation. That's real money being exchanged for something most people wouldn't even look at twice. Hidden wealth, sitting in plain sight. So what should you do right now? Start with the date, 1928. Then check for the mint mark. Or more importantly, the lack of one. Examine the details. Are Lincoln's features still visible? Are the wheat lines sharp? Feel the weight, the texture, the age. And if you think you've found something promising, do not spend this coin. Get it professionally graded. Because the difference between a regular penny and a life-changing opportunity is authentication. Most people miss this. They rush. They ignore. They assume. But the ones who slow down, who pay attention, who hold instead of spend, they're the ones who uncover silent fortunes. And if you think this coin is unbelievable, the next one is even more dangerous to ignore. Because what happened during its minting shouldn't have happened at all. Next up, there's a version of this coin that most people walk right past. And that mistake is costing them more than they'll ever realize. The 1928 wheat penny with a tiny D mint mark doesn't look powerful. It doesn't shine. It doesn't demand attention. But hidden in that small letter is a detail so critical, so overlooked, that collectors will quietly compete for it while everyone else unknowingly spends it. If you've never checked below the date on your pennies, you might already have lost one. Now pause and think about 1928 again, but this time, not Philadelphia. Denver. The Denver Mint was operating under intense demand, pushing out coins to fuel a booming economy that was about to collapse. Production pressure was real. Machines were pushed hard, dies wore down unevenly, and the result? Coins that came out slightly different, slightly imperfect, and over time, incredibly rare in strong condition. That small D under the date marks a completely different origin story, and collectors treat it like a different world. On the front of the coin, Abraham Lincoln's portrait faces right, just like every wheat penny. But here's where things shift. In very fine condition, you can still see clear lines in Lincoln's hair, the curve of his cheek, and the subtle definition in his coat. Above, "In God We Trust" remains readable, not faded into the surface. To the left, "Liberty." To the right, the date 1928. And just below it, that tiny D. That single letter is what most people miss. And it's the reason this coin becomes dangerous to ignore. Flip the coin over, and the reverse tells its own story. Two wheat stalks curve upward, framing 1 cent, and United States of America, with E pluribus unum sitting above. But collectors don't just glance at this, they study it. They look at how sharp those wheat lines are, how deep the lettering sits, and whether the strike was strong or weak. Because Denver coins from this period often show differences caused by die fatigue. And those differences matter more than you think. The composition is the same classic blend, 95% copper, with tin and zinc mixed in. But the way this coin ages is what sets it apart. Over decades, it develops a rich, darker tone. Sometimes chocolate brown, sometimes deep reddish hues hiding beneath the surface. That natural aging, what collectors call original toning, is everything. It proves the coin hasn't been altered. And listen carefully, never clean this coin. Even a slight cleaning attempt can wipe away decades of natural aging and destroy its value instantly. Hold this coin, and you'll feel something different. About 3.11 grams in weight, roughly 19 millimeters across, with a thin but solid thickness that feels almost delicate between your fingers. The edges, the surface, the slight roughness from age, it all tells a story. This isn't just metal. This is time captured in copper. And the fact that it still exists in very fine condition today, that's where rarity begins to take over. Because here's the truth. Most of these coins didn't survive like this. They were used heavily, especially as the Great Depression hit just a year later. People relied on every cent. Coins were worn down, damaged, lost, or melted over time. The ones that remain today, especially with clear details still visible, are incredibly hard to find. And when you add that D mint mark into the equation, the number shrinks even further. Collectors know this, and they don't take it lightly. They hunt these coins with precision. They check auctions daily. They compare surfaces. They analyze strike quality. And when a strong example appears, things get quiet, then intense. Bidding starts slow, almost cautious, then suddenly jumps. Because everyone watching knows they might not see another one like it for a long time. Demand keeps rising, while supply quietly disappears into private collections. And here's what makes this even more serious. This 1,928D wheat penny in very fine condition has reached auction levels around $420,000. Let that sink in. A coin most people would barely glance at is quietly moving through auctions at levels that can change someone's entire life. This is hidden wealth. This is a silent fortune. And people are still spending it like it's nothing. So what should you do? First, check the date, 1928. Then immediately look under it. Is there a D? If there is, stop. Don't rush. Examine the details. Can you still see Lincoln's hairlines? Are the wheat stalks on the back clearly defined? Does the coin have that natural aged color? And whatever you do not spend this coin. Keep it safe. Get it professionally graded. Because authentication is what separates a lucky find from serious money. Most people ignore these details. They move too fast. They assume all pennies are the same. But the ones who slow down, who pay attention to that tiny mint mark, are the ones who uncover opportunities others never even knew existed. Patience here isn't optional. It's everything. And if you think this coin is already pushing the limits, the next one breaks them completely. Because what makes it valuable isn't supposed to exist at all. Coin number 4. Stop whatever you're doing. Seriously. Check your pocket, your coin jar, even your couch cushions. Right now. Because one of the coins you're casually spending, tossing, or ignoring could secretly be a silent fortune. A 1936 wheat penny without a mint mark. Nobody talks about these, but collectors are fighting over every surviving example. Every tiny detail matters. This isn't fiction. This is life-changing treasure hiding under your nose, and most people miss it. Stay with me, because what comes next is even scarier. The moment you pick up a 1936 wheat penny, you feel history under your fingertips. This coin is deceptively ordinary. The front, the obverse, shows Liberty's profile, her calm yet determined face staring off into the future. The words, "In God we trust," arch overhead, a whisper of a nation's hope during a turbulent decade. Below, the year 1936 tells a story of economic recovery, of America clawing back from depression and uncertainty. Don't underestimate it. This year was pressure-cooked, and every coin minted carries a trace of that stress. Flip it over, and the reverse strikes hard. Two delicate wheat ears framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. But this isn't just decoration. Every line, every curve was struck under enormous production stress, and not all coins survived perfectly. The wheat stalks show tiny die wear, a fingerprint of the mint's frantic effort to meet demand. Look closely. Do you see uneven edges, faint doubling, or irregularities? These subtle imperfections are what make collectors obsessive. They crave them. Hold it in your hand. Feel the weight, just 3.11 grams of copper-plated bronze. Run your thumb along the girth, 19 millimeters in diameter, 1.52 millimeters thick. This coin feels ordinary, yes, but that normalcy is deceptive. Each curve, each edge, carries the survival story of 88 years. Thousands were melted, lost, or spent, and only a tiny fraction remain with this original charm intact. This coin's fineness and condition amplifies the rarity. The original surface, the patina, the antique darkness, is sacred. Cleaning it? That's destroying its hidden wealth forever. The absence of a mint mark makes this 1936 coin a whisper of anonymity, yet a scream to collectors. Philadelphia produced most coins without a mint mark, but surviving specimens from this year are fragile and dwindling. Every collector watching an auction knows this. They're not just buying copper. They're chasing history, scarcity, and the thrill of holding a coin that slipped through nearly 9 decades untouched. Imagine the quiet frenzy when one appears. You might think, it's just a penny. That's exactly why this coin is dangerous to ignore. 1936 was a year of economic turbulence. The New Deal was reshaping America. Factories were humming again, and the nation's mint was under unusual pressure. Coins from this period were hammered through presses with urgency, leaving subtle anomalies. Every scratch, every toning pattern, every bit of dirt clinging to the rim is a fingerprint of survival. That is what makes it magnetic to collectors. Look closer. Original toning matters. Some 1936 pennies darken naturally, a deep copper patina forming over decades. These aren't blemishes. They are proof of authenticity, of untouched history. Any artificial cleaning wipes away decades of value in an instant. Don't risk it. If you ever plan to auction or professionally grade it, keep that patina intact. Professional grading could turn a simple penny into a life-changing fortune. Do not spend this coin. Not now. Not ever. Collectors obsess over details that most people miss. Tiny die cracks, subtle variations in lettering, the shape of Liberty's hair, even the depth of the wheat stalks, all of it drives competition. Auctions explode quietly, but ferociously. Aggressive bidding erupts the moment one of these appears. Holders are patient. They understand supply is shrinking. Demand is surging. Each 1936 wheat penny without a mint mark is a rare gem in a sea of ordinary coins, and the market knows it. Even in fine condition, The story this coin tells is extraordinary. The edges are sharp yet worn by survival. The surface shows evidence of circulation without abuse. This is why collectors pay attention. This coin has the perfect balance of history, touch, and mystery. Most people toss it into jars, spend it at grocery stores, or overlook it entirely, never realizing they're passing up a fortune that could change their life. Here's what to check first if you find one. Look for original toning, verify the absence of a mint mark, and check for tiny anomalies in the wheat ears. Don't clean, don't polish, don't even touch it with greasy fingers. Patience creates wealth. Let it sit, let it be graded, let its story be told. This coin isn't just copper, it's hidden wealth, a silent fortune, quietly growing in demand while everyone else ignores it. The market today is unforgiving to ignorance. Auction results scream $365,000 for a fine-condition survivor. That's real money. That's life-changing opportunity. And yet, the coin you might already have could be next. Holding it feels dangerous, exciting, precious. Every line etched by minting stress, every inch of weight and thickness is a reminder. You're not just holding a penny, you're holding a rare whisper of history, a treasure that collectors would die to get their hands on. Do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Keep it safe. Preserve its toning. Get it professionally graded. The temptation to ignore it is your biggest risk. Each day it sits unnoticed. The silent fortune grows in value for those who know. And if you think this coin is incredible, what comes next is even bigger, even rarer, and far more dangerous to miss. The next wheat penny on our list isn't just hidden, it's life-changing. Stay tuned. Coin number 5. Stop. Drop what you're doing and check your pockets, your drawers, even your spare change jar. One coin in your everyday life could quietly be a fortune you're about to lose. A 1939 wheat penny without a mint mark is hiding under your nose, and most people spend them without a second thought. Collectors are obsessing over every surviving piece, quietly battling in auctions. This is not fiction. This is hidden wealth sitting in your hands. The moment you lift a 1939 penny, it feels deceptively normal. But that normalcy is the trap. The obverse shows Liberty's serene yet resolute profile, her hair swept back in delicate lines, staring toward a future no one knew. The words, "In God we trust," arch above, a quiet declaration from a country on the edge of transformation. Beneath, the year 1939 hints at a nation recovering economically yet bracing for global turmoil. And this coin carries that tension in every fiber. Flip it over, and the reverse whispers danger to those who ignore it. Two fragile wheat stalks frame the bold 1 cent and United States of America. But these aren't just symbols, they're tiny relics of production stress. The Philadelphia Mint struck coins in record quantities, but surviving examples with perfect toning and detail are shockingly rare. Every line, curve, and tiny die wear marks the coin's incredible journey through nearly a century. Hold it in your palm. Feel the copper-plated bronze, 3.11 grams of history condensed into 19 millimeters of diameter, 1.52 millimeters thick, a girth that seems ordinary, but is anything but. The coin's smooth yet subtly textured surface carries the weight of time. Most 1939 pennies were circulated, lost, or melted, leaving only a fraction with original charm intact. Every fine-condition survivor is a whisper of quiet fortune, hiding in plain sight. The absence of a mint mark makes this coin even more tantalizing. Philadelphia produced most coins without one, but surviving specimens in this condition are scarce. Collectors know this. They crave it. Auctions erupt quietly when one surfaces. Bidders hold their breath, wallets ready, eyes fixed. This coin isn't just copper. It's history, scarcity, and silent wealth condensed into a few grams. Missing it could be life-changing. This penny isn't just about numbers. It's about survival. 1939 was a year of economic recalibration and global uncertainty. Coins minted that year were struck under unusual pressure, creating subtle anomalies collectors hunt obsessively. Minor die cracks, faint doubling, uneven strikes, or small variations in lettering. These tiny imperfections are the fingerprints of history and the difference between ordinary pennies and silent fortunes. Original toning is your best friend. A naturally darkened copper surface shows decades of untouched history. Any attempt to clean or polish this coin erases that story, and with it, the coin's value. This is sacred territory. Do not risk it. Preserve the surface, let the patina speak, and consider professional grading. That step alone could reveal the life-changing potential hidden in your hands. Collectors obsess over details most people don't even notice. The curvature of Liberty's hair, the depth of the wheat stalks, subtle surface lines, tiny imperfections only visible under magnification. That obsession drives quiet auctions into emotional battles. Demand rises, supply diminishes, and each coin becomes more precious with every passing year. The 1939 wheat penny is a magnet for attention. Even in fine condition, the story is extraordinary. Where from circulation is present, but not destructive. The edges show survival. The surface shows authenticity. This balance is what makes the coin irresistible to collectors who understand scarcity and history. Each tiny line and every gram of copper is proof that this isn't just a penny. It's a hidden fortune slipping by unnoticed. Here's what to check if you find one. Confirm the absence of a mint mark. Preserve the original toning, and note any unusual details in the wheat ears or lettering. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Patience is wealth. Leave it untouched, get it graded professionally, and let it sit. Every day you wait, the value quietly compounds while most people toss it or spend it without realizing its potential. The market today is unforgiving to those who underestimate it. Auction activity shows a quiet frenzy. $350,000 for a fine-condition survivor. That's serious money. But this coin isn't about instant cash. It's about holding history in your palm, feeling the weight of 84 years, and knowing that most people are blind to the fortune sitting right under their noses. Every edge, every curve, every line matters. Do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Keep it safe. Preserve its toning. Professional grading is critical. Every day it sits unnoticed. The silent fortune grows. And if you think this 1939 penny is impressive, the next coin we uncover is even rarer, more shocking, and far more dangerous to ignore. Stay with me, because missing what comes next could be the biggest mistake of your life. Don't trust what your eyes are telling you right now. That dull, slightly worn penny sitting in your change. The one you almost ignored? That could be a 1940 wheat penny without a mint mark. And if it is, you might be holding something far more dangerous than it looks. Dangerous because people spend it every single day without realizing what they're losing. This coin blends in perfectly, hides quietly, and slips through fingers unnoticed. But collectors? They're watching. And they're waiting. The first thing you notice about a 1940 wheat penny is how ordinary it feels. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, calm, steady, almost too normal to question. In God We Trust curves above, Liberty sits to the side, and the year 1940 rests below like it's just another date. But this isn't just another year. This was the edge of something massive. America was emerging from economic hardship while the world stood on the brink of war. That pressure, it made its way into every coin struck. Flip it over, and the reverse design quietly reveals its power. Two wheat stalks frame the bold 1 cent and United States of America. Simple, clean. But look closer. The lines in the wheat ears, the spacing of the letters, the sharpness or softness of the strike. These are not random. These are the fingerprints of a mint operating under pressure, pushing production, creating subtle variations that collectors obsess over today. Now hold it tighter. Feel the weight, 3.11 grams. Not heavy, not light, just enough to feel real. The diameter stretches 19 millimeters across, with a thickness of about 1.52 millimeters. Run your finger along the edge, the girth. It feels smooth, almost forgettable. That's the illusion, because inside that tiny frame is nearly a century of survival. Copper alloy, mostly bronze, quietly aging, darkening, preserving its story in silence. Here's where things get serious. There's no mint mark. That means it came from Philadelphia, but don't let that fool you into thinking it's common. Surviving examples in fine condition, with original surfaces intact, are disappearing. Every year, more are lost, damaged, or destroyed by people who don't know what they have. And that's exactly why collectors are getting more aggressive. Supply is shrinking. Demand is tightening. Most people completely miss the signs. They don't notice the subtle wear patterns that prove authenticity. They ignore the natural toning, the deep brown or slightly reddish surface that forms over decades. That toning, it's not dirt. It's not damage. It's proof. Proof that the coin hasn't been tampered with. The moment someone tries to clean it, polish it, make it shiny, the value collapses instantly, forever. And here's the part that changes everything: minting pressure. In 1940, the U.S. Mint was pushing output while maintaining quality, but that balance wasn't perfect. Tiny die cracks formed. Slight inconsistencies appeared in lettering. Some coins show fade doubling, others have uneven strikes in the wheat lines. These aren't flaws. They're signatures. And collectors hunt for these signatures like treasure maps. This is not a coin you casually toss aside. This is a coin you study. Look at Lincoln's cheek. How smooth is it? Check the wheat stalks. Are the lines still visible? Examine the lettering, sharp or fading. These details determine everything. Most people miss this. They glance once and move on. But the ones who know? They pause. They inspect. Because one small detail can turn an ordinary penny into a silent fortune. And the truth is, many of these coins are already gone. Melted down, worn out, lost in circulation. The ones that remain, especially in fine condition, are survivors. They've passed through countless hands, decades of change, economic shifts, and still made it here. That survival alone creates emotional demand. Collectors don't just want this coin. They feel connected to it. Here's what you need to do right now. If you find a 1940 wheat penny without a mint mark, stop. Do not spend this coin. Keep it safe. Do not clean it, ever. Preserve the original toning exactly as it is. Even touching it too much can reduce its quality. The smartest move? Get it professionally graded. That single step could unlock its true identity and its true value. Because today's market is not playing around. A fine condition 1940 wheat penny without a mint mark has reached auction levels of $330,000. Let that sink in. That's not pocket change. That's serious money hiding in something most people ignore. That's the kind of hidden wealth that changes lives quietly, without warning, without announcement. And here's the scary part. There are still more out there, sitting in jars, dropped in drawers, passed around and change. People are losing them every day without even realizing it. That could be you. Unless you pay attention. Unless you check. Unless you understand what you're holding before it's gone forever. But don't relax yet, because the next coin on this list makes this one look almost easy to find. What's coming next is rarer, more intense, and far more dangerous to ignore. And trust me, you do not want to miss it. Most people throw this coin away without even looking twice. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Somewhere right now, a 1937 wheat penny without a mint mark is slipping through someone's fingers, getting spent on something meaningless, disappearing forever. And the worst part? It looks exactly like every other penny. No flashing signs, no obvious clues. Just quiet, ordinary copper, hiding something that collectors are desperately trying to get their hands on. Pick it up, and at first glance, nothing feels special. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln's familiar face, calm, steady, almost blending into the background of your memory. In God we trust curves above him, liberty rests beside him, and the year 1937 sits below like it's just another date. But it's not. That year sat right in the middle of economic uncertainty, when the United States was still recovering from deep financial strain. That pressure shaped everything, including this coin. Turn it over slowly, because this is where most people miss everything. The reverse shows the iconic wheat ears, framing 1 cent and United States of America. But look closer, really look. The wheat lines, the spacing, the strike depth. These aren't just design elements. They reveal how the coin was made, under what conditions, and whether it survived the decades untouched. Tiny differences here are what make collectors stop, stare, and bid aggressively. Now feel it. Let it sit in your palm. That small disc weighs 3.11 grams, stretches 19 millimeters across, and holds a thickness of about 1.52 millimeters. The girth feels smooth, almost forgettable, but don't let that fool you. This is a bronze alloy coin, mostly copper, aging naturally over nearly a century. Its surface might be darkened, even uneven. But that's not damage. That's time. That's authenticity. That's where the hidden treasure begins. Here's where things get intense. The missing mint mark. No D, no S. Just blank beneath the date. That means Philadelphia. And while millions were made, surviving examples in fine condition with original surfaces are becoming harder to find every single year. Why? Because people keep spending them, damaging them, cleaning them, destroying the very features that make them valuable. And collectors know this, which is why demand keeps rising. You need to understand something critical. This coin is not rare because it looks different. It's rare because it survived. 1937 was a year where mint production was steady, but not perfect. Die wear, strike inconsistencies, and subtle flaws slip through. Some coins show faint doubling, others have weak wheat lines or tiny cracks. These details are invisible to most people, but to collectors, they're everything. This is where ordinary turns into extraordinary. And then there's the surface, the toning, that deep, natural color that forms over decades, sometimes brown, sometimes reddish, sometimes a mix of both. This is not something you fix. This is something you protect. The second someone tries to clean this coin, to improve it, they erase its history, and its value drops instantly, permanently. This is why experts repeat it over and over. Never clean a rare coin, not even once. Collectors are obsessed with coins like this. Not casually interested, obsessed. They study the smallest details. Lincoln's cheek, the sharpness of the lettering, the definition in the wheat stalks. They compare surfaces, textures, strike quality. And when a strong example appears at auction, the energy shifts. Quiet at first, then intense. Bidding climbs fast, emotions rise, and suddenly, that ordinary penny becomes the center of attention. Most people never even give it a chance. They don't check the date carefully. They don't notice the missing mint mark. They don't understand what fine condition actually looks like. Slight wear, yes, but not destroyed. Still detailed. Still alive. That balance is rare. That's what collectors fight for. And that's why coins like this don't stay available for long. They're recognized. So here's what you do if you find one. First, stop. Do not spend this coin. Not under any circumstances. Second, don't clean it. Leave the toning exactly as it is. Third, handle it carefully by the edges if possible. And finally, consider professional grading. That step alone can confirm its condition and unlock its full potential. Patience here isn't just smart. It's profitable because the market doesn't lie. A 1937 wheat penny without a mint mark in fine condition has reached auction levels of $360,000. That's not a guess. That's not hype. That's real demand meeting real scarcity. That's what happens when a coin survives decades unnoticed and finally gets recognized for what it truly is, a silent fortune hiding in plain sight. And the truth is, there are still more out there, sitting in jars, hidden in drawers, mixed in with loose change. People are losing them every single day without realizing it. But now you know. Now you see what others don't. And that changes everything. But don't get comfortable yet, because the next coin on this list is even more shocking, rarer, more intense, and far easier to miss. If you thought this was hidden treasure, what's coming next might be the biggest mistake people are making right now. Stay with me. Next up, you're not supposed to notice this coin. That's the whole point. It hides in plain sight, blending in with pennies you've seen your entire life. Until one tiny detail flips everything. A small S mint mark. That's it. That's all it takes. A 1935 wheat penny with that single letter has been slipping through circulation for decades, quietly escaping attention while collectors search relentlessly. And right now, someone is probably spending one without even looking. The first glance won't help you. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln exactly how you expect. Calm, familiar, almost forgettable. In God we trust arches above. Liberty rests to the side. And the date, 1935, sits below like it's nothing special. But 1935 was deep in the Great Depression era, when the U.S. economy was under pressure and every system, including the mint, was operating with urgency. That pressure left marks. Subtle, but powerful. Now flip it. Slowly. The reverse design is simple at first. 2 wheat ears wrapping around 1 cent and United States of America. But this is where the story deepens. Look closely at the wheat lines. Are they sharp or slightly faded? Is the strike even? These tiny details reveal how the coin was produced under strain. The San Francisco Mint, marked by that small S, had its own production challenges, and those differences matter more than most people realize. Hold it in your hand and feel the deception. Just 3.11 grams, about 19 millimeters across, roughly 1.52 millimeters thick. The girth feels smooth, almost too ordinary to question. But this bronze alloy, mostly copper, has been aging for over 90 years. Its surface might show dark toning, maybe even uneven coloring. That's not damage. That's authenticity. That's the coin protecting its story, layer by layer. Now here's the detail that most people completely miss, and it changes everything. That tiny S mint mark below the date. It's easy to overlook, easy to ignore. But collectors don't ignore it. They hunt for it. Because coins from the San Francisco Mint in 1935 didn't all survive equally. Many were heavily circulated, worn down, or lost entirely. Finding one today in fine condition with original surfaces intact is becoming incredibly rare. And rarity doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. This coin whispers. It doesn't shine like gold. It doesn't stand out like silver. It waits, quietly, until someone who knows what to look for picks it up and realizes, this isn't just another penny. This is a survivor, a piece of history that slipped through decades of transactions, untouched, unnoticed, and now sitting in your hand. Collectors are obsessed with the smallest details on coins like this. The sharpness of Lincoln's jawline, the clarity of the lettering, the depth of the wheat stalks. Even tiny die cracks or slight doubling can trigger massive interest. These aren't impressions, they're signatures of the minting process under pressure. And when collectors spot them, the energy shifts fast. Quiet auctions turn competitive. Bidding climbs. And suddenly, that ordinary coin becomes the center of attention. But here's where most people make the biggest mistake of their lives. They try to clean it. They see dirt, darkness, or toning and think it needs to be fixed. No! That toning is everything. It's proof the coin hasn't been tampered with. The moment you clean it, polish it, or try to restore it, you destroy its value instantly. Forever. There's no undoing that. This is why experienced collectors repeat one rule over and over. Never clean a rare coin. You also need to understand condition. Fine condition doesn't mean perfect, but it means the coin still holds strong detail. Lincoln's features are visible. The wheat lines are present. The lettering is readable and clear. That balance between wear and preservation is what makes this coin so desirable. Too worn, and the story fades. Too altered, and the authenticity disappears. But just right, that's where the hidden fortune lives. So what should you do if you find one? First, stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Second, handle it carefully, preferably by the edges. Third, leave the surface exactly as it is. No cleaning, no polishing, no experimenting. And finally, get it professionally graded. That step confirms its condition, authenticity, and unlocks its true position in the market. Patience here isn't optional. It's everything. Because today's market tells a very real story. A 1935 wheat penny with an S mint mark in fine condition has reached auction levels of $380,000. That's not hype. That's not theory. That's real collectors, real demand, and shrinking supply colliding. That's the result of decades of survival meeting modern obsession. And that kind of money doesn't sit around waiting forever. It moves fast when the right coin appears. And here's the part that should make you uneasy. There are still people out there spending these right now, without checking, without knowing, letting go of something that could have changed everything. But you're not most people anymore. You know what to look for. You know what that small s means. But don't relax yet, because the next coin on this list is even more unbelievable, rarer, more overlooked, and hiding in places you wouldn't even think to check. If you thought this was a hidden treasure, what's coming next is on another level entirely. Stay with me. Coin number 9. You've probably already touched this coin, maybe even spent it, and didn't feel a thing. That's what makes it so dangerous. The 1948 wheat penny without a mint mark doesn't look rare, doesn't feel special, and doesn't warn you before it disappears into circulation forever. It hides in the most ordinary places: your change, your drawer, your wallet, while collectors quietly chase every surviving piece. And the scariest part? Most people never even check. At first glance, the obverse looks completely familiar. Abraham Lincoln's profile sits there like it always does, calm, steady, almost blending into the background of everyday life. In God we trust arches above him, liberty rests beside him, and the date 1948 sits below. But that year matters more than most people realize. America was adjusting after World War II, industries were shifting, and the mint was producing coins in a changing economy. That pressure left subtle marks. Now turn it over, because this is where the quiet details start to speak. The reverse shows the classic wheat design: 2 wheat ears framing, 1 cent, and United States of America. Simple, right? But look closer. In circulated condition, the lines in the wheat may be worn, softened by years of use. That wear isn't just damage, it's proof of survival. Every softened edge tells you this coin lived a life, passed through hands, and still made it here. Hold it for a moment. Feel its weight, 3.11 grams. Its diameter, 19 millimeters. Thickness, about 1.52 millimeters. The girth feels smooth, almost too normal to question. That's the illusion. Because this copper-based bronze coin has traveled through decades of transactions, slowly aging, developing a natural tone that collectors recognize instantly. That darker, worn surface. It's not worthless. It's history locked into metal. Here's where things shift. There's no mint mark. That means Philadelphia. But don't let that fool you into thinking it's common. In circulated condition, most of these coins were pushed hard through the economy. They were used, reused, worn down, and eventually lost or destroyed. Finding one today that still holds identifiable detail, with original surfaces untouched, is becoming harder every single year. And this is exactly what most people misunderstand. Circulated doesn't mean worthless. In fact, circulated coins like this tell a stronger story. They prove the coin survived real use. But survival comes with a cost. Details fade, surfaces change, and only a small number retain enough character to attract collectors. That balance between wear and identity is where the hidden treasure begins. Look closely at the details most people ignore. Lincoln's cheek. How smooth is it? The lettering, still readable or fading? The wheat lines, visible or almost gone? These tiny features determine everything. Collectors don't just glance at coins like this, they study them. They search for signs of authenticity, originality, and those rare characteristics that make one coin stand out from thousands. And here's something most people never think about. Minting pressure didn't disappear after the war. In 1948, the mint was still adjusting to post-war production demands. That created subtle inconsistencies, uneven strikes, fade dye wear, minor variations in lettering. These aren't flaws, they're clues. Clues that collectors use to identify coins with deeper value, coins that others overlook completely. Now let's talk about the biggest mistake people make: cleaning. The moment someone takes a circulated 1948 penny and tries to improve it, they erase its story. That natural toning, that worn surface, it's what proves the coin is real, untouched, and authentic. Remove that, and the value drops instantly, permanently. This is why experienced collectors treat even circulated coins with extreme care. Collector demand for coins like this is rising quietly, but aggressively. Not loudly, not publicly, but behind the scenes auctions are getting tighter. Fewer coins, more interest. People are holding onto their pieces, waiting, watching the market grow. Because once these coins disappear into collections, they don't come back easily. Supply shrinks, demand builds, and the tension rises. So if you find a 1948 wheat penny without a mint mark, here's what you do. First, stop. Do not spend this coin. Second, handle it carefully, even if it's circulated. Third, never clean it. Leave the surface exactly as it is. And finally, consider professional grading. Even a circulated coin can carry serious weight when it's authenticated and preserved correctly. Because the market doesn't ignore coins like this anymore. A circulated 1948 wheat penny without a mint mark has reached levels of $300,000. That's real money. That's the kind of hidden wealth people lose every single day without realizing it. That's what happens when something ordinary turns out to be anything but. And here's the truth that should stay in your mind. There are still more out there. Sitting in jars, hidden in drawers, passed around in change. People are letting them go without even a second thought. But now you know what to look for. Now you understand what that ordinary penny could really be. But don't get comfortable, because the next coin is even more shocking, rarer, more overlooked, and far more dangerous to miss. If this one surprised you, what's coming next could change everything. Stay with me. Next up, if you think you've seen it all, this is where people get blindsided. The 1934 wheat penny without a mint mark doesn't scream for attention. It hides, waits, and slips through hands unnoticed. And that's exactly why it's one of the most dangerous coins to ignore. Right now, somewhere, someone is spending one without even checking the date. No hesitation. No second look. Just gone. And what they lost, they'll never even realize it. Pick it up, and it plays the perfect disguise. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln like every other penny you've ever seen, calm, familiar, almost invisible to your attention. In God we trust, arches above. Liberty sits beside him, and the year 1934 rests below like it means nothing. But that year sits deep in the Great Depression era when America was under intense economic strain. And the mint was producing coins under pressure that quietly shaped their uniqueness. Now, turn it over, slowly. The reverse design looks simple. 2 wheat stalks framing 1 cent and United States of America. But don't rush past it. The sharpness of those wheat lines, the spacing of the lettering, the depth of the strike. These are everything. In 1934, minting conditions weren't perfect. Subtle inconsistencies slipped through, tiny variations that collectors today hunt obsessively. What looks normal to you could be extraordinary to them. Hold it firmly. Feel its presence. 3.11 grams, 19 millimeters across, about 1.52 millimeters thick. The girth feels smooth, almost too ordinary to question. But this is a bronze alloy coin, rich in copper, carrying over 90 years of history in its surface. That slightly darkened tone, that worn but intact detail, it's not damage. It's survival. It's proof that this coin made it through decades without being destroyed. And here's where the tension builds. There's no mint mark. That blank space under the date means Philadelphia. But don't mistake that for common. Coins from this year, in fine condition, with original surfaces still intact, are becoming incredibly hard to find. Most were circulated heavily, worn down, or lost entirely. The ones that remain? They're survivors. And survivors attract attention. Collectors don't just want this coin, they chase it. They study every detail. The curve of Lincoln's jaw, the clarity of the lettering, the depth of the wheat lines. Even the smallest imperfections, tiny die cracks, faint doubling, uneven strikes, can turn a quiet coin into a target. This is where auctions get intense. Quiet at first, then suddenly aggressive. Because when the right 1934 penny appears, everyone knows what's at stake. But here's the mistake that destroys everything: cleaning. The moment someone tries to fix the coin, to make it shiny, to remove the toning, they erase its history. That natural surface is what proves authenticity. It's what collectors trust. Remove it, and the value collapses instantly. This is why you never clean a rare coin. Not once. Not ever. Fine condition is where this coin becomes powerful. It's not perfect, but it's preserved. Lincoln's features are still visible. The wheat lines still hold shape. The lettering remains clear. That balance between wear and detail is rare. Too much wear, and the story fades. Too little authenticity, and collectors lose interest. But this is the sweet spot where hidden wealth lives. And the market sees it clearly. A 1934 wheat penny without a mint mark, in fine condition, has reached auction levels of $390,000. That's not speculation. That's real demand meeting shrinking supply. That's collectors recognizing what most people ignore. That's what happens when a coin survives quietly for decades and finally gets the attention it deserves. So what should you do if you find one? Stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Handle it carefully by the edges if possible. Never clean it. Preserve the original toning exactly as it is. And most importantly, get it professionally graded. That step alone can confirm what you're holding and unlock its full potential. Patience here isn't optional. It's the difference between losing everything and securing a silent fortune. Because here's the truth: people are losing these every single day. Spending them on small purchases, tossing them into jars, ignoring them completely. They don't see what you see now. They don't understand what's in their hands. But you do. And that changes everything. And as we reach this point, you need to realize something bigger. This isn't just about one coin. It's about a pattern. A hidden world of ordinary-looking pennies carrying extraordinary value. Coins that people overlook, underestimate, and lose again and again. Hidden wealth isn't rare because it doesn't exist. It's rare because people don't recognize it. This is where things stop being just coins and start becoming mistakes people regret for the rest of their lives. The 1918 wheat penny without a mint mark is one of those coins that doesn't look valuable, doesn't feel valuable, but quietly holds a level of hidden wealth that most people will never even realize they touched. And right now, as you're watching this, someone out there is spending one like it's nothing. Gone in seconds. Forgotten forever. The moment you see 1918 on a penny, everything should slow down. That year wasn't ordinary. It was the final stretch of World War I. The United States was under immense economic and industrial pressure. Factories were running hard, resources were strained, and the U.S. Mint was producing coins in an environment filled with urgency. That pressure left subtle marks on every piece struck, including this one. And those marks, they matter more than you think. Look at the obverse carefully. Abraham Lincoln's profile is there, but it feels different when you know the history behind it. In God we trust, above him, carried a heavier meaning during wartime. Liberty sits beside him, and the date 1918 anchors the coin in one of the most intense periods in American history. This isn't just a design, it's a snapshot of a nation under pressure, captured in metal. Now flip it over, and don't rush this part. The reverse shows the iconic wheat ears framing, ONE cent, and United States of America. But here's what most people miss: the sharpness of those wheat lines. The consistency of the strike, the spacing of the letters. In 1918, minting wasn't always perfect. Subtle inconsistencies slipped through. Tiny die cracks, faint doubling, uneven impressions. These are the details collectors obsess over today. Hold it in your hand and feel what you're actually holding. 3.11 grams of copper alloy, mostly bronze, shaped into a 19mm disc with a thickness of about 1.52 millimeters. The girth feels smooth, almost too simple. But this coin has survived over a century. Think about that. Wars, economic shifts, countless transactions, and somehow it's still here. That survival alone makes it rare. And then there's the missing mint mark. No D, no S, just blank. That means it came from Philadelphia. But in 1918, coins from this mint were heavily circulated. They weren't preserved. They were used, worn down, and often lost. Finding one today in fine condition, with original detail still visible, is incredibly difficult. Most didn't survive this long with their identity intact. This is what makes the coin dangerous to ignore. It doesn't stand out. It doesn't shine. It doesn't demand attention. It waits, quietly blending in with modern coins, hiding its age, its story, its value. And unless you know exactly what to look for, you'll miss it, just like millions of others already have. Collectors don't miss it. They study coins like this with intensity. They look at Lincoln's cheek, how much detail remains. They examine the wheat stalks. Are the lines still visible? They analyze the lettering, sharp or fading. Every tiny feature tells a story, and the more detail that survives, the more powerful the coin becomes in the eyes of the market. And here's something that changes everything: original surface condition. That natural toning, that slightly darkened copper color, even the minor imperfections. They are essential. They prove the coin hasn't been altered. The moment someone tries to clean it, polish it, or improve it, the value drops instantly, permanently. This is why one simple mistake can destroy a silent fortune in seconds. Now, think about demand. Coins from 1918 are over 100 years old. The number of surviving examples in fine condition is shrinking every year. Collectors know this. They're not just buying coins, they're securing pieces of history that won't be available forever. Auctions for coins like this don't stay quiet for long. The right piece appears, and suddenly, everyone pays attention. So if you ever find a 1918 wheat penny without a mint mark, you need to act differently than everyone else. Stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Handle it carefully by the edges. Never clean it. Preserve the toning exactly as it is. And most importantly, consider professional grading. That single step can confirm its authenticity and unlock its true position in the collector market. Because the market is already speaking loud and clear. A 1918 wheat penny without a mint mark, in fine condition, has reached values of $440,000. That's not a small number. That's life-changing money hiding in something most people wouldn't even pick up twice. That's what makes this coin so powerful and so easy to lose. And here's the truth you can't ignore anymore. There are still more out there, sitting in jars, hidden in old collections, passed around without a second thought. People are losing them every day, not because they don't care, but because they don't know. But now you do. And what comes next is even more shocking. Next up, it's always the coins that look the worst. The worn ones, the scratched ones, the ones people ignore. Those are the ones that end up hiding the biggest secrets. And the 1937 wheat penny without a mint mark, especially in circulated condition, is one of the most dangerous examples of that. because people see the wear and instantly assume it's worthless. So they spend it, toss it, forget it, and just like that, a hidden fortune disappears. Now slow down for a second and actually look at it. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln, but in a circulated coin, his features aren't sharp anymore. His cheek looks smoother, the hair details are softer, and the lettering INGODWE Trust, Liberty, and 1937 might not be perfectly crisp. But that wear is not weakness. That wear is proof. Proof that this coin survived real circulation, passing through hands for decades and still existing today. Flip it over, and this is where most people completely lose the story. The reverse design, the wheat ears framing 1 cent, and United States of America might look faded, maybe even weak in areas. But look closer. Even in circulated condition, those wheat lines still tell a story. They show how the coin was struck, how deeply the design was pressed into the metal, and how much of that original identity survived. Hold it tightly. Feel that familiar weight, 3.11 grams. The diameter stretches across 19 millimeters, with a thickness of about 1.52 millimeters. The girth feels smooth from years of handling, almost polished by time itself. This coin is made of bronze, mostly copper, and over decades, it develops a natural tone, dark, sometimes uneven, sometimes almost dull. That tone is not damage, it's authenticity. It's the coin's fingerprint. Now here's the part that changes everything, the missing mint mark. No D, no S, just blank space under the date. That means Philadelphia. And in 1937, these coins were produced in large numbers, but that doesn't mean they survived. In fact, circulated examples like this were used heavily, worn down, lost, or destroyed. Finding one today that still holds recognizable detail is far rarer than most people think. And this is where people get it completely wrong. They assume circulated equals common. But in reality, circulated coins are survivors of real-world use. They've been through decades of transactions, economic shifts, and human handling. Most didn't make it. The ones that did, especially with enough detail left to identify, carry a different kind of rarity. A quiet, overlooked rarity that collectors are starting to chase more aggressively. Look closely at the details collectors care about. Lincoln's profile, how much shape is still there? The lettering, can you clearly read every word? The wheat stalks, do the lines still show, even faintly? These are the things that separate an ordinary circulated coin from one that still holds serious value. Most people miss this. They glance once and move on. But that's where the mistake happens. And then comes the biggest danger of all, cleaning. This is where people destroy value without even realizing it. They see a worn coin and think it needs to be cleaned, polished, or fixed. But that natural surface, the toning, the wear, even the slight discolorations, that's what proves the coin is real and untouched. The moment you clean it, you erase decades of history. And the value drops instantly, forever. Now think about the year again, 1937. The United States was still navigating economic recovery, and the mint was producing coins under steady pressure. That pressure led to subtle variations, minor die wear, uneven strikes, small imperfections that slip through. These aren't flaws. They're signatures. And collectors look for those signatures with intensity because they prove the coin's origin and authenticity. Even in circulated condition, coins like this create demand. Why? Because supply is shrinking. Every year, more are lost, damaged, or altered. The number of original, untouched examples continues to drop. And collectors understand that. They're not waiting. They're quietly acquiring, holding, and watching the market tighten. This isn't loud hype, it's silent competition. So if you find a 1937 wheat penny without a mint mark, even in circulated condition, you need to treat it differently. Stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Handle it carefully, even if it looks worn. Never clean it. Preserve the surface exactly as it is. And if you're serious, get it professionally graded. That step can confirm what you have and position it correctly in the market. Because here's the reality most people aren't ready for. A circulated 1937 wheat penny without a mint mark has reached auction levels of $300,000. That's not a mistake. That's what happens when rarity, history, and survival collide. That's what happens when collectors recognize something the public keeps ignoring. And the most unsettling part, these coins are still out there, sitting in jars, mixed in with spare change, passed from one person to another without a second thought. People are losing them every single day, not because they don't care, but because they don't know. But now you do. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And trust me, what's coming next makes even this look easy to find. Next up, imagine holding a coin so worn, so ordinary looking, that you almost feel embarrassed to keep it. And then realizing it could be one of the biggest financial mistakes of your life if you let it go. That's the reality of the 1919 wheat penny without a mint mark in circulated condition. It doesn't shine. It doesn't impress. It hides. And because it hides so well, people spend it every single day without a second thought. Now look at that date again, 1919. This isn't just another year. This is right after World War I ended. America was shifting from war to recovery, industries were adjusting, and the entire economy was under pressure. The U.S. Mint was pushing coins into circulation to keep up with demand, and that urgency left subtle marks on every coin produced. Marks that most people ignore, but collectors chase relentlessly. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's face appears worn, maybe even tired. The details in his hair are softer, his cheek smoother, the lines less defined. In God We Trust arches above, though maybe not as sharp as it once was. Liberty and 1919 still sit there, but in circulated condition, they carry the marks of time. And that's exactly what makes this coin so powerful. It survived real use, real history, real life. Flip it over, and the reverse tells an even deeper story. The wheat ears that frame 1 cent and United States of America may not be perfectly sharp anymore, but they're still there. Faint lines, softened edges, slight unevenness in the strike. These aren't flaws. These are survival scars. Each one is proof that this coin lived through decades of circulation and still exists today. Now hold it in your hand. Feel the 3.11 grams of copper-based bronze, the 19 millimeter diameter, the 1.52 millimeter thickness. The girth feels smooth, worn down by countless exchanges. This coin has been passed from hand to hand for over a century. Think about that. Generations have touched it, used it, ignored it, and yet it survived. That survival alone creates a level of rarity most people don't understand. Here's where things become even more intense. There's no mint mark. That blank space beneath the date means Philadelphia. And in 1919, coins from this mint were heavily circulated across the country. They weren't saved. They weren't protected. They were used, worn down, and often lost. Finding one today, even in circulated condition, that still holds enough detail to be recognized is far rarer than people realize. This is the trap most people fall into. They see a worn coin and assume it has no value. They don't understand that circulated condition can actually prove authenticity and survival. It shows the coin wasn't tampered with, wasn't artificially preserved, wasn't altered. It lived a real life. And that story, the raw, untouched history, is exactly what collectors are willing to pay for. Look closer at the details collectors obsess over. Can you still see Lincoln's profile clearly? Are the letters readable, even if they're worn? Do the wheat stalks still show faint lines? These are the questions that matter. Because even in circulated condition, if those key features remain, the coin holds its identity, and that identity is where the hidden treasure lives. Now let's talk about the biggest mistake people make with coins like this: cleaning. It sounds harmless, right? Making it look better. But in reality, it's the fastest way to destroy value. That darkened surface, that uneven tone, those tiny imperfections, they are everything. They prove the coin hasn't been altered. The moment you clean it, you erase its history, and its value drops instantly. Collectors understand this at a deep level. They don't just look for perfect coins, they look for authentic ones. Coins that tell a story. Coins that survived. And when a 1919 wheat penny like this appears in the market, even in circulated condition, it creates quiet tension. People watch. They wait. And when the moment is right, they move fast. Because supply is shrinking. Every year, more of these coins disappear, lost, damaged, or destroyed by people who didn't know what they had. The remaining pieces become more valuable, more desirable, more intense in the eyes of collectors. This isn't a loud market. It's a quiet one. But it's powerful. And it's growing. So if you ever come across a 1919 wheat penny without a mint mark, even if it looks worn, you need to pause. Do not spend this coin. That's the first rule. The second, do not clean it. Leave the surface exactly as it is. Handle it carefully, preferably by the edges. And if you're serious about understanding its true worth, get it professionally graded. That step can confirm its authenticity and unlock its position in the collector world. Because the reality is staggering. A circulated 1919 wheat penny without a mint mark has reached auction levels of $390,000. That's not a small number. That's not pocket change. That's life-changing money hidden inside something most people would ignore without a second glance. And the most unsettling part? These coins are still out there, sitting quietly in old jars, mixed into loose change, passed around every single day. People are losing them, not because they're careless, but because they don't know. They don't see what's right in front of them. But now you do. And once you know, you can't go back. And what's coming next is even harder to believe. If a coin looks too dark, too dirty, almost black, most people don't even pick it up. They ignore it, assume it's damaged, and move on without a second thought. And that right there is where fortunes disappear. Because the 1941 wheat penny without a mint mark, especially in that deep blackish fine condition, is one of the most dangerously misunderstood coins out there. It doesn't shine, it hides. And because it hides so well, people are losing it every single day. Now slow down and really look at it. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln, but in this condition, his features feel shadowed, almost muted by time. In God We Trust still arches above, though it may blend slightly into the darker surface. Liberty and the date 1941 are there, but they don't jump out. They sit quietly, almost buried in the tone. And that's exactly why this coin gets overlooked, because it doesn't beg for attention. But 1941 was not a quiet year. This was the edge of World War II for the United States. Economic pressure was building, industries were shifting, and the mint was operating in a tense environment. Coins struck during this time often show subtle inconsistencies, tiny variations caused by production urgency. Those variations don't scream at you. They whisper, and collectors are trained to hear those whispers. Flip the coin over, and the reverse tells an even deeper story. The wheat year's framing, 1 cent, and United States of America may look subdued, even faded into that blackish surface. But look closely. The lines are still there. The structure remains. That dark toning hasn't erased the design. It's protected it. It sealed decades of history into the coin, layer by layer, creating a surface that collectors recognize instantly. Now hold it. Feel the weight, 3.11 grams. Diameter, 19 millimeters. Thickness, around 1.52 millimeters. The girth feels smooth, almost softened by time. This is a bronze alloy coin, rich in copper, and over decades, that copper reacts with the environment, creating that deep, dark tone. Most people call it damage. Experts call it originality. And originality is everything. Here's where the tension builds. There's no mint mark. That blank space under the date means Philadelphia. But coins from this year, in fine condition with original blackish toning, are becoming harder to find. Why? Because people don't understand them. They clean them. They polish them. They try to fix what isn't broken. And in doing so, they erase the very thing that makes the coin valuable. That blackish surface is not a flaw. It's a signature of time. It proves the coin hasn't been tampered with. It shows that it aged naturally, untouched, preserving its authenticity. The moment someone tries to clean it, that signature disappears, and with it, a massive portion of its value. This is why collectors approach coins like this with extreme caution and respect. Now look deeper into the details. Even in fine condition, you should still see structure. Lincoln's profile is worn but recognizable. The lettering is readable, and the wheat lines are present. That balance between wear and preservation is rare. Too much wear, and the identity fades. Too much alteration, and authenticity is lost. But this is the exact point where hidden treasure exists. Collectors are obsessed with coins like this, not because they're perfect, but because they're real. They study the surface, the tone, the tiny imperfections caused by minting pressure. Some look for faint die cracks, others for slight variations in lettering. These details are like fingerprints, proving the coin's origin and journey. And when the right piece appears, auctions don't stay quiet for long. Think about the survival factor. This coin has lived through over 80 years. It has passed through countless hands, survived economic shifts, wars, and modernization. Most coins from this era didn't make it in this condition. They were cleaned, damaged, or lost. The ones that remain, especially with original blackish toning, are becoming increasingly rare. And rarity drives demand. So what should you do if you find one? First, stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. That's the biggest mistake you could make. Second, do not clean it. Not even a little. That dark surface is its identity. Third, handle it carefully, preferably by the edges. And finally, get it professionally graded. That step confirms its authenticity and places it correctly in the market, because the market is already telling the story. A 1941 wheat penny without a mint mark, in blackish fine condition, has reached auction levels of $325,000. That's serious money hiding inside something most people would throw aside without thinking twice. That's the difference between seeing and understanding. And here's the part that should stay with you. Coins like this are still out there, sitting in jars, buried in collections, mixed into everyday change. People are losing them not because they're careless, but because they don't recognize what they have. They see darkness and miss the value. But now you see it differently. Now you understand that sometimes the darkest coin holds the brightest hidden fortune. And trust me, what's coming next is even more unbelievable. Right when people think the war-era coins are all the same, this one slips through and proves them completely wrong. The 1945 wheat penny without a mint mark looks like something you'd ignore in seconds, just another worn coin from the past. But that assumption? That's where people lose real money. Because this coin doesn't look rare. It behaves rare. It hides, blends in, and disappears into circulation while collectors quietly hunt for every surviving piece. Now pause and really look at that date, 1945. That's not just another year. That's the final chapter of World War II. The entire country was under pressure, industries were stretched, and the U.S. Mint was producing coins in an environment filled with urgency and demand. That kind of pressure doesn't just disappear, it shows up in the coins. Subtle inconsistencies, slight variations, tiny imperfections. All of it matters. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile feels familiar, but there's something different when you understand the context. In God We Trust, above him carried a deeper emotional weight during wartime. Liberty sits beside him, and the date 1945 anchors the coin in one of the most intense moments in modern history. Even in fine condition, you'll notice slight wear, but that wear is part of the story, not a flaw. Turn the coin over, and the reverse begins to reveal its quiet complexity. The wheat ears frame 1 cent and United States of America, but look closely at the details. Are the wheat lines sharp? Is the lettering clean? Are there slight inconsistencies in the strike? In 1945, the mint was balancing speed with precision, and not every coin came out perfectly. Those subtle differences are exactly what collectors search for. Now hold it in your hand. Feel the weight, 3.11 grams. The diameter, 19 millimeters. Thickness, around 1.52 millimeters. The girth feels smooth, almost too ordinary. But this bronze alloy coin, rich in copper, has been aging for decades, developing a natural tone that tells its story. That surface, whether slightly darkened or uneven, isn't damage. It's authenticity. It's proof that the coin hasn't been altered. And here's where the detail most people miss changes everything. There's no mint mark. That blank space under the date means Philadelphia. But coins from this year, in fine condition with original surfaces intact, are becoming harder to find. Many were heavily circulated, worn down, or lost. The surviving examples? They're shrinking in number every year. And collectors know it. This coin is rare not because it looks different, but because it survived. Think about how many coins from 1945 were used daily during and after the war. They passed through countless hands, through uncertain times, through economic shifts. Most didn't make it to today in fine condition. The ones that did carry a level of rarity that isn't obvious at first glance, but becomes undeniable once you understand it. Collectors don't overlook coins like this. They study them. They examine Lincoln's cheek, the sharpness of the lettering, the depth of the wheat lines. They look for tiny signs of minting pressure, faint die cracks, slight doubling, uneven strikes. These details are like fingerprints, proving the coin's origin and uniqueness. And when the right coin appears, auctions don't stay calm for long. But here's the mistake that destroys everything: cleaning. It sounds simple, even harmless. But the moment you clean this coin, you erase decades of natural toning. That surface is what collectors trust. It proves the coin hasn't been tampered with. Remove it, and the value drops instantly, permanently. This is why experienced collectors treat coins like this with extreme caution. Fine condition is where this coin becomes powerful. It's not perfect, but it's preserved. The details are still there. The design is still strong. That balance between wear and clarity is rare. Too much wear, and the coin loses its identity. Too much alteration, and it loses authenticity. But in this condition, it sits right in the zone where collectors compete aggressively. And the market reflects that intensity. A 1945 wheat penny without a mint mark, in fine condition, has reached auction levels of $320,000. That's serious money hiding inside something most people would never think twice about. That's the kind of hidden wealth that slips through everyday life unnoticed. So if you ever come across one, you need to act differently. Stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Handle it carefully by the edges if possible. Never clean it. Preserve the original toning exactly as it is. And if you want to unlock its true potential, get it professionally graded. That step can confirm everything and position it correctly in the market. Because here's the truth that most people never realize: coins like this are still out there. Sitting in jars, tucked away in drawers, passed around in change. People are losing them every single day, not because they don't care, but because they don't know. But now you do. And once you see it, you can't ignore it. And what's coming next is even more intense, more valuable, and far more dangerous to miss. You see that tiny D under the date? Most people don't. They glance, assume it's just another penny, and move on. And that's exactly how a 1949 wheat penny with a Denver Mint mark keeps slipping through hands unnoticed. It doesn't scream value. It doesn't look rare. It hides behind familiarity, while collectors quietly search for it like it's buried treasure. And every time someone misses that small D, another opportunity disappears. Now look closer at the obverse. Abraham Lincoln's profile feels familiar, but in fine condition. There's still life in the details: his cheek, his jawline, the subtle lines in his hair. INGODWE trust arches above with clarity. Liberty stands firm. And the year 1949 anchors the coin in a time when America was stepping into a new post-war era. Industry was growing, demand was rising, and the mint was working under pressure to keep up. Flip it over and let the reverse speak. The wheat ears frame 1 cent and United States of America, but the real story is in the sharpness of those lines. In fine condition, you'll still see structure, clear wheat grains, defined lettering, a strong strike. But not every coin from 1949 came out perfect. Minting pressure created subtle inconsistencies, and those tiny differences are what collectors obsess over today. Now feel it in your hand. 3.11 grams, 19 millimeters across, about 1.52 millimeters thick. The girth feels smooth, almost too ordinary to question. But this is a bronze alloy coin, rich in copper, aging slowly over decades. That natural toning, whether reddish-brown or darker, is not damage. It's authenticity. It's proof that this coin has remained untouched, preserving its original identity. And here's where everything changes: that small D mint mark. It tells you this coin came from Denver. But coins from this mint, especially in fine condition with original surfaces, are not as common as people think. Many were circulated heavily, worn down, or lost. The surviving examples? They're becoming harder to find, and collectors are paying attention. This coin is dangerous to ignore because it looks so normal. That's the trap. It blends into everyday change, hiding its value behind a familiar design. But collectors don't see just a penny. They see history, rarity, and opportunity. They examine every detail, the sharpness of Lincoln's profile, the clarity of the lettering, the depth of the wheat lines, because those details determine everything. And then there are the tiny features most people never notice. Slight die cracks, faint doubling, minor strike variations. These aren't flaws, they're signatures of the minting process. They prove the coin's authenticity and uniqueness. And when collectors spot these details, the coin instantly becomes more desirable. This is where quiet auctions turn intense. But here's the mistake that destroys it all: cleaning. The moment you try to make this coin look better, you erase its history. That natural toning is what collectors trust. It proves the coin hasn't been altered. Remove it, and the value drops instantly, permanently. This is why experienced collectors never clean coins, no matter how tempting it seems. Fine condition is where this coin holds its power. It's not perfect, but it's preserved. The details are still visible. The design is still strong. That balance between wear and clarity is rare, and it's exactly what collectors look for. Too worn, and the value fades. Too altered, and authenticity is lost. But this condition? This is where hidden wealth lives. Collectors are becoming more aggressive with coins like this. Supply is shrinking. Fewer coins are available with original surfaces intact. And demand continues to grow as more people realize what they've been missing. These coins don't sit around waiting. They move quickly when recognized. And once they enter collections, they rarely come back into circulation. So if you ever find a 1949 wheat penny with a D mint mark, you need to stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Handle it carefully, by the edges if possible. Never clean it. Preserve the original toning exactly as it is. And if you want to understand its true value, get it professionally graded. That step can unlock everything. Because the market has already made it clear, a 1949 wheat penny with a Denver mint mark, in fine condition, has reached levels of $330,000. That's not small money. That's the kind of hidden treasure people lose every day because they don't notice one tiny detail. And that's the part that should stay with you. It only takes one missed mint mark to lose a fortune. One quick glance. One careless decision. And it's gone. But don't relax yet. Because the next coin is even more deceptive. Smaller clues, bigger stakes, and far easier to miss. Stay with me. Next up, you've probably held this coin before and didn't even hesitate. That's what makes the 1944 wheat penny without a mint mark so dangerous. It doesn't stand out. It doesn't warn you. It blends in so perfectly with everyday change that people spend it without a second thought. And every time that happens, a piece of hidden wealth disappears forever. This isn't just another penny. It's one of those silent fortunes hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to finally notice. Now stop and look at the date, 1944. That year carries weight. World War II was still shaping everything, including the U.S. Mint. Just a year earlier, in 1943, pennies were made from steel due to copper shortages. But in 1944, the composition shifted back to copper-based metal, often using recycled wartime materials like shell casings. That alone makes this coin historically charged. Every piece carries the story of a nation at war and adapting under pressure. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile appears strong, especially in fine condition. You'll still see definition in his cheek, his jawline, and parts of his hair. In God we trust arches above him. Liberty stands clearly to the side, and 1944 sits below, quietly marking a year of transition. The design may look familiar, but the story behind it makes it far more powerful than most people realize. Flip it over, and the reverse begins to reveal its deeper character. The wheat ears frame 1 cent and United States of America, and in fine condition, those wheat lines still show structure. Not perfect, but present. That's what matters. Because coins from this period were struck under pressure, and subtle differences, slight softness in the strike, tiny inconsistencies, are exactly what collectors look for. Now hold it in your hand. Feel the weight, 3.11 grams. Diameter, 19 millimeters. Thickness, around 1.52 millimeters. The girth feels smooth, worn just enough to show it's lived a life, but not enough to erase its identity. This coin is made of bronze, mostly copper, and its surface may show natural toning, reddish-brown, sometimes darker. That tone is not damage. It's authenticity. It's history sealed into metal. Here's where the detail most people miss changes everything. There's no mint mark. That blank space under the date means Philadelphia. But coins from this mint, especially from 1944, were heavily circulated. They were used daily, passed through countless hands, and many didn't survive in good condition. Finding one today in fine condition, with original surfaces intact, is far rarer than people think. This coin is not rare because it looks different. It's rare because it survived. Think about it. Decades of use, economic shifts, changing hands over and over again. Most coins from 1944 were worn down, damaged, or lost. The ones that remain with clear detail and untouched surfaces are becoming fewer every year. And that shrinking supply is exactly what fuels collector demand. Collectors don't overlook coins like this. They study them. They look closely at Lincoln's features, the clarity of the lettering, the depth of the wheat lines. They search for tiny signs of minting pressure, faint die cracks, slight doubling, uneven strikes. These details are like fingerprints, proving the coin's authenticity and uniqueness. And when the right piece appears, auctions become intense very quickly. But here's the mistake that destroys everything: cleaning. It might seem harmless, even helpful, but it's the fastest way to erase value. That natural toning, that slightly aged surface, is exactly what collectors want. It proves the coin hasn't been altered. The moment you clean it, you remove that proof, and the value drops instantly, permanently. Fine condition is where this coin holds its true power. It's not flawless, but it's preserved. The details are still visible. The design still holds strength. That balance between wear and clarity is rare, and it's exactly what collectors are willing to compete for. Too worn, and it loses identity. Too altered, and it loses authenticity. But this condition? This is where hidden treasure lives. So if you ever come across a 1944 wheat penny without a mint mark, you need to stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Handle it carefully by the edges if possible. Never clean it. Preserve the surface exactly as it is. And if you're serious about understanding its true value, get it professionally graded. That step can confirm everything and unlock its full potential. Because the market has already shown what this coin can do. A 1944 wheat penny without a mint mark, in fine condition, has reached levels of $340,000. That's serious money hiding in something most people wouldn't even look at twice. That's the definition of hidden wealth. And the truth is, there are still more out there, sitting in jars, mixed into spare change, passed around every day. People are losing them constantly, not because they're careless, but because they don't know what they're holding. But now you do. And once you see it, you can't ignore it. And what's coming next is even more shocking and far more dangerous to miss. Next up, you ever look at a coin and instantly decide it's nothing? No second thought. No hesitation. You just move on. That exact moment. That's when people lose the 1946 wheat penny without a mint mark. Because this coin doesn't fight for your attention. It blends in, stays quiet, and disappears into circulation while carrying a level of hidden wealth most people will never even imagine. Now lock your eyes on that date, 1946. This was the first full year after World War II ended. America was transitioning, industries were shifting from war production to peace, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to stabilize coin supply. That kind of transition doesn't happen perfectly. It leaves subtle marks, tiny inconsistencies in the coins themselves, marks that most people ignore, but collectors chase. Look at the obverse. Abraham Lincoln's profile appears steady, and in fine condition, you'll still see detail in his cheek, his jawline, and parts of his hair. In God we trust arches above him, strong and clear. Liberty sits beside him, and 1946 anchors the coin in a year of change. It may look familiar, but this coin carries the tension of a country rebuilding itself. Now flip it over. The reverse design shows the wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America. In fine condition, those wheat lines are still visible, not perfect, but strong enough to show the original strike. And that's where the story lives. Coins from this period often show slight strike inconsistencies, faint die wear, or tiny variations that make one piece stand out from another. Hold it in your hand. Feel the 3.11 grams, the 19 millimeter diameter, the thickness of about 1.52 millimeters. The girth feels smooth, almost too normal. But this bronze alloy coin, mostly copper, has been aging for decades. Its surface may show natural toning, reddish-brown, sometimes darker, and that's exactly what you want to see. That tone proves the coin hasn't been altered. Here's the detail that most people miss, and it changes everything. There's no mint mark. That blank space under the date means Philadelphia. But coins from this mint in 1946 were heavily circulated. They were used daily, passed through countless hands, and many didn't survive in strong condition. Finding one today in fine condition, with original surfaces intact, is becoming increasingly rare. This coin is dangerous because it looks so ordinary. That's the trap. It doesn't stand out. It doesn't shine. It hides in plain sight. But collectors don't see it that way. They look deeper. They study Lincoln's features, the sharpness of the lettering, the clarity of the wheat lines. They search for those subtle signs of minting pressure, tiny die cracks, slight doubling, uneven strikes. Those small details, they're everything. They turn an overlooked coin into something collectors compete for. And that competition isn't loud. It's quiet, intense, focused. When the right 1946 penny appears, people don't hesitate. They move fast because they know supply is shrinking and opportunities like this don't come often. Now let's talk about the biggest mistake people make: cleaning. It feels like the right thing to do, make the coin look better. But in reality, it destroys everything. That natural toning, that slightly aged surface, is what collectors trust. It proves the coin hasn't been tampered with. The moment you clean it, you erase that proof, and the value drops instantly, permanently. Fine condition is where this coin becomes powerful. It's not perfect, but it's preserved. The details are still visible. The design still holds strength. That balance between wear and clarity is rare, and it's exactly what collectors look for. Too worn, and it loses identity. Too altered, and it loses authenticity. But this condition, this is where hidden treasure exists. So if you find a 1946 wheat penny without a mint mark, you need to stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Handle it carefully by the edges if possible. Never clean it. Preserve the surface exactly as it is. And if you want to understand its true value, get it professionally graded. That single step can unlock everything, because the market has already spoken. A 1946 wheat penny without a mint mark, in fine condition, has reached levels of $330,000. That's serious money hiding in something most people ignore without a second thought. That's what hidden wealth looks like: quiet, ordinary, and easy to lose. And here's the truth that should stay with you. There are still more out there, sitting in jars, tucked away in drawers, passed around every single day. People are losing them not because they don't care, but because they don't know. But now you do. And what's coming next is even harder to believe. Next up, you know that feeling when something looks so normal, you don't even question it? That's exactly how the 1938 wheat penny without a mint mark slips past people every single day. No warning, no signal, just another coin in your hand until it's gone. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because while you're ignoring it, collectors are hunting it, studying it, and holding on to every surviving piece like it's buried treasure. Now, stop and lock in on that date, 1938. This was a year when the United States was still navigating economic recovery, while the rest of the world was moving closer to conflict. The pressure on production didn't disappear. The U.S. Mint was striking coins consistently, but not perfectly. And those small imperfections, those subtle variations created under pressure, they're exactly what make coins like this stand out today. Look at the obverse. Abraham Lincoln's profile is there, calm and steady, but in fine condition. There's still visible detail: his cheek, the curve of his jaw, parts of his hair. In God We Trust arches above with clarity, Liberty stands to the side, and 1938 sits below like it's just another number. But it's not. It's a marker of a time when every coin carried the weight of a changing nation. Now, flip it over. The reverse shows the wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America. In fine condition, those wheat lines still hold structure, not perfect, but strong enough to show the original strike. And that's where the real story begins. Coins from this period often reveal slight strike inconsistencies, faint die wear, or tiny variations in lettering. These aren't flaws, they're signatures. Hold it in your hand. Feel the weight, 3.11 grams. The diameter, 19 millimeters. Thickness, around 1.52 millimeters. The girth feels smooth, almost too familiar. But this bronze alloy coin, mostly copper, has been aging for decades. Its surface may show natural toning, reddish-brown, sometimes darker. And that's exactly what collectors want to see. That surface proves the coin hasn't been altered. Here's the detail that changes everything. There's no mint mark. That blank space beneath the date means Philadelphia. But coins from this mint, especially from 1938, were heavily circulated. They were used daily, passed through countless hands, and many didn't survive in strong condition. Finding one today in fine condition, with original surfaces intact, is far rarer than most people realize. This coin is dangerous because it hides in plain sight. It doesn't look rare. It doesn't stand out. But collectors don't rely on appearance. They rely on detail. They examine Lincoln's profile, the clarity of the lettering, the depth of the wheat lines. They search for those tiny indicators of minting pressure, slight doubling, faint die cracks, uneven strikes. These details separate ordinary coins from extraordinary ones. And when those details align, the market reacts. Quietly at first, then aggressively, because collectors understand that supply is shrinking. Every year, more coins are lost, damaged, or destroyed. The number of surviving examples with original surfaces continues to drop. And that's what drives demand higher and higher. Now let's talk about the biggest mistake people make: cleaning. It seems harmless, just making the coin look better. But in reality, it destroys everything. That natural toning, that aged surface, is what collectors trust. It proves the coin hasn't been tampered with. The moment you clean it, you erase that proof, and the value drops instantly, permanently. Fine condition is where this coin becomes powerful. It's not flawless, but it's preserved. The details are still visible. The design still holds strength. That balance between wear and clarity is rare, and it's exactly what collectors compete for. Too worn, and the identity fades. Too altered, and authenticity is lost. But this condition? This is where hidden treasure exists. So if you ever come across a 1938 wheat penny without a mint mark, you need to stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Handle it carefully, by the edges if possible. Never clean it. Preserve the original surface exactly as it is. And if you're serious, get it professionally graded. That step can confirm everything and unlock its true position in the market. Because the market has already revealed the truth. A 1938 wheat penny without a mint mark, in fine condition, has reached levels of $370,000. That's serious money hiding inside something most people wouldn't even look at twice. That's the definition of hidden wealth: quiet, ordinary, and easy to lose. And here's what should stay with you. Coins like this are still out there, sitting in jars, mixed into spare change, passed around every day. People are losing them constantly, not because they're careless, but because they don't know. But now you do. And what's coming next is the one coin most people never see coming. The coin you're about to ignore is the one that could cost you everything. Not because it's shiny, not because it looks rare, but because it looks too dark. The 1918 wheat penny without a mint mark, in that deep black shade fine condition, is one of the most dangerously overlooked coins in existence. People see the color, assume it's damaged, and toss it aside. And just like that, a hidden fortune disappears without a trace. Now freeze on that date, 1918. This isn't just old. This is wartime America. The final year of World War I. Resources were stretched, industries were under pressure, and the U.S. Mint was pushing coins into circulation to keep the economy moving. That kind of pressure doesn't leave coins untouched. It leaves subtle signatures, tiny variations, slight imperfections, marks that collectors today chase with obsession. Look at the obverse. Abraham Lincoln's profile sits there, but in this black shaded fine condition, the details feel almost hidden beneath the surface. His cheek, his jawline, parts of his hair, they're still there, but softened by time. In God We Trust arches above, blending slightly into the darker tone, while Liberty and 1918 remain visible but subdued. This coin doesn't show off. It hides its story. Flip it over, and the reverse reveals even more of that quiet mystery. The wheat ears frame, 1 cent, and United States of America, but the blackish tone makes everything feel deeper, almost shadowed. And this is where most people make a mistake. They think the darkness is damage. It's not. That natural toning is decades of untouched aging, protecting the coin's surface and preserving its authenticity. Now hold it in your hand. Feel the 3.11 grams, the 19 millimeter diameter, the thickness of about 1.52 millimeters. The girth feels smooth, worn just enough to show its journey through time. This is a bronze alloy coin, rich in copper And over more than 100 years, that copper reacts with its environment, creating that deep, dark tone. That tone is not a flaw, it's a signature of survival. Here's where everything shifts. There's no mint mark. That blank space under the date means Philadelphia. And in 1918, coins from this mint were pushed hard into circulation. They weren't preserved. They were used, worn, and often lost. Finding one today in fine condition, with original black shading intact, is incredibly rare. Most didn't survive this long without being cleaned, damaged, or destroyed. This is what makes the coin so dangerous to ignore. It doesn't shine. It doesn't stand out. It looks like something you'd skip over without thinking. But collectors don't skip. They look deeper. They examine Lincoln's profile, the clarity of the lettering, the faint but present wheat lines. They search for those tiny indicators of minting pressure, slight die cracks, uneven strikes, subtle doubling. Those details are everything. They prove authenticity. They tell the story of how the coin was made and how it survived. And when collectors find a piece that still holds those characteristics, especially with original black toning, the interest becomes intense. Quiet at first, then competitive, because they know coins like this don't come around often. Now here's the mistake that destroys the entire opportunity: cleaning. This is where people lose everything. They see the dark surface and think it needs to be fixed. But that black tone is the most valuable part of the coin. It proves the surface hasn't been altered. The moment you clean it, you erase over a century of natural aging, and the value drops instantly, permanently. Fine condition is what gives this coin its balance. It's not perfect, but it's preserved. Lincoln's features are still there. The lettering is readable. The wheat lines, even if softened, still exist. That balance between wear and detail is rare. Too worn, and the identity fades. Too altered, and authenticity disappears. But this condition? This is where hidden treasure lives. Collectors understand that supply is shrinking. Every year, more coins like this are lost, damaged, or cleaned beyond recognition. The number of original, untouched examples continues to drop. And as that happens, demand quietly rises. This isn't hype. It's a slow, powerful shift in the market driven by scarcity and awareness. So if you ever come across a 1918 wheat penny without a mint mark, especially with that deep black shade, you need to stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Handle it carefully by the edges. Preserve that surface exactly as it is. And if you're serious, get it professionally graded. That step can confirm everything and unlock its true position in the market, because the market has already made its decision. A 1918 wheat penny without a mint mark, in black shade fine condition, has reached levels of $430,000. That's not just money. That's life-changing opportunity hiding in something most people would ignore without a second glance. And here's the truth you can't unsee now. Coins like this are still out there, sitting quietly in jars, buried in old collections, passed from hand to hand without recognition. People are losing them every day, not because they don't care, but because they don't know what they're holding. But now you do. And once you see it, you'll never look at a dark, ordinary penny the same way again. Next up, you're holding what looks like just another penny, ordinary, faded, worn down by decades of use. But this is the 1920 wheat penny without a mint mark. And that innocuous, unassuming date? That's exactly what hides its fortune. People pass this coin by every single day, never realizing the life-changing money slipping right through their fingers. This is a coin that quietly holds history, and a fortune that's been hiding in plain sight for over a century. Now stop and consider the year 1920. The world was recovering from the First World War. America was transitioning from wartime industries to peacetime growth. The economy was tense. Inflation and labor issues were shaping how money circulated. And the U.S. Mint was under real pressure to produce coins efficiently. That environment created subtle differences, small inconsistencies in each strike, and variations that collectors obsess over today. Look at the obverse. Abraham Lincoln stares forward, familiar yet almost timeless. In God We Trust curves over his head, liberty sits to the side, and the date 1920 rests at the bottom. In fine condition, you'll still notice definition in his cheek and jawline, the faint details in his hair, details that are essential to collectors. Even slight wear doesn't diminish its story. It enhances it. It proves the coin survived decades of circulation and still carries its original essence. Flip it over, and the reverse shows the wheat ears framing, 1 cent, and United States of America. The wheat lines are worn but visible, each line telling a story of how this coin traveled through countless hands, pockets, and drawers over the past century. Subtle die variations, faint minting stress marks, and slight strike inconsistencies make each surviving piece unique. These tiny details are exactly what collectors hunt for. Now pick it up. Feel the weight, 3.11 grams. Diameter, 19 millimeters. Thickness, about 1.52 millimeters. The girth is smooth, almost deceptively ordinary. But the bronze alloy, rich in copper, has slowly aged over decades, developing a natural reddish-brown patina. That tone is not damage, it's authenticity. The darker shades and subtle surface nuances prove the coin has been untouched and unaltered, a rare survivor in the wild circulation of the 1920s. Here's the critical part most people overlook, the absence of a mint mark. That blank space below the date indicates Philadelphia. But surviving examples from this mint, in fine condition, are increasingly rare. Many coins were used heavily, damaged, or lost over the past century. This is a coin that quietly escaped that fate, and that survival is what makes it so valuable. Collectors obsess over the tiniest features. They study Lincoln's facial contours, the sharpness of the lettering, the depth of the wheat lines, faint die cracks, and subtle strikes. Every small detail can dramatically affect a coin's market position. And when the right piece emerges, auctions don't stay quiet for long. Bidding gets fierce, collectors fight to secure what remains scarce, and prices climb fast. But there's a trap that ruins this coin for almost everyone who mishandles it: cleaning. It's tempting to try to brighten the surface, make the coin look new. But doing so destroys its original toning, erases decades of history, and slashes its value instantly. That natural patina is everything. Preserve it, and you preserve the life-changing potential. Fine condition is where the 1920 wheat penny shines. It's not perfect, but the details are still present. The balance between wear and clarity is precisely what collectors seek. Too much wear, and the coin loses character. Too much cleaning or alteration, and authenticity is gone. But preserved in fine condition, it holds decades of history and hidden wealth in its small, familiar frame. This coin is a quiet fortune. Its market today reaches $420,000. That's serious money hiding in what most people overlook as just another penny. That's the type of hidden treasure people lose every single day simply by not looking closely, not recognizing its potential. So if you come across a 1920 wheat penny without a mint mark, stop immediately. Do not spend this coin. Handle it carefully by the edges. Never clean it. Preserve the surface exactly as it is. and consider professional grading to fully realize its hidden value. That step could unlock everything and turn an ordinary coin in your hand into a life-changing discovery. And as you put this coin down, remember, this is the last one in our series today. But the truth is, hidden treasures like this are still out there, quietly waiting, silently slipping through hands. The next time you check your pocket, it might just be the one that changes everything. Before you go, remember this. Every single coin you've seen today, every wheat penny hiding in plain sight, could be a silent fortune slipping through your hands without you even realizing it. The 1920, the 1918, the 1944, all of them. Life-changing money hiding in everyday change. So here's the challenge. Check your pockets, jars, drawers. Look carefully, because the next hidden treasure is already in circulation, waiting for someone who knows its value. And the ones you don't spot, someone else will. Don't let that be you. Stay sharp, stay curious. And next time, we'll reveal even rarer coins, scarier to miss, and far more valuable than anything you've seen today. Your fortune could be just one coin away.